इस पॉडकास्ट को शुरू करने से पहले मेरी आपसे एक छोटी सी रिक्वेस्ट है। सब्सक्राइब बटन और बेल आइकन को क्लिक करिए, क्योंकि आपके ऐसा करते ही आप हमारी कम्युनिटी के पार्ट बन जाते हो। हमारी कम्युनिटी बड़ी हो जाती है और ट्रस्टेबल हो जाती है। ये स्पेशली इंपॉर्टेंट होता है हमारे गेस्ट के लिए, जिनको हम बहुत मेहनत से अप्रोच करते हैं, और वो जब आते हैं पॉडकास्ट पे तो अपने सालों की इंफॉर्मेशन आपके साथ शेयर करते हैं, जिसको आप आराम से घर में बैठ के सुन पाते हो। उन गेस्ट के लिए इम्पॉर्टेंट होता है कि कौन सुनेगा उनको, कितने लोग सुनेंगे, और ये सवाल का जवाब आप बहुत आसानी से दे सकते हो सब्सक्राइब करके। आपको सिर्फ इतना करना है, बाकी हम देख लेंगे। तो आइए चलते हैं, देखते हैं ये पॉडकास्ट।
Like in Goa, this is the reality. Everybody from all over the world wants to come and retire in Goa, but they don't understand that you don't have a community here then.
Yeah.
Invariably, you're one of the most important people in the household, right? And the day you retire, then you are not even allowed to have bath at the same time that you used to, because now, where do you have to go? You can have bath later. We're talking about the people next who know everybody who's somebody. Like they can call up the health minister.
Right.
Those kind of people. So they are rich, and they have everything at their disposal, and yet they are lonely.
But do they realize that they're not fine?
There is somebody who's having a little uneasiness and they're not even mentioning it, and then everybody's like, oh, they did not care enough, nobody was there to look after them. These people, these elderly people that we're talking about, they have reached their 90s. They've raised these children who are now in their 70s. They've raised their children who are now in their 40s. They're raising another set of children who are in their 20s, and now you want them to raise another bunch of children. This is the myth.
Okay.
So this is one of the myths. A whole lot of elderly people know one of the things that they want to feel is they want to feel. I know of innumerable instances where that person is literally ill-treating the elderly person.
Really?
I think they are essentially lost and about to be forgotten, even while they are alive. So that is the condition of the elderly almost everywhere.
Rohini Gonsalves, founder of Sevarat, Goa. She was a thorough professional, a corporate job person for all her life. And then one day, she left it to start Sevarat. It's a professional service for senior home care based in Goa. Miraculous work she does. Let's hear her out. I feel that ours is probably the first generation where we are experiencing such large percentage of parents living by themselves.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's absolutely true.
There is
Especially our parents were just not prepared for old age and living their old age alone. They were just not prepared for this. Most of them are just, it's an unprecedented reality for them. And they're trying to pretend that it doesn't exist in the way it does. So a whole lot of pretense for them. They just imagine that they are capable of handling, and they lie out to the children on the phone. They are just living in this make-believe world that, oh, we are just as good as we were when we were younger. And so that is one of the issues that I think will be predominant when it comes to elderly people living alone. And another facet is that, the children who are not residing in the same location, like they're not in the same geographical location, then remotely managing this becomes very difficult because you have to think of all kinds of contingencies, all kinds of loopholes, and prepare for those with people who are unwilling to get prepared any which ways.
Exactly.
So then it becomes extremely challenging.
Help me understand that what's the being of elder people in our country today? What all is happening?
So there's so many, the whole fabric of society is so, it's a huge thing. It's like it's a whole area, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the super rich, I'm not talking about the people who come on the top richest families. I'm not talking about those, but I'm talking about
they have a hospital at home.
Yeah, they have a hospital. They own a hospital.
So
they own a hospital.
Leave them.
We're not talking about them.
We're not talking about them.
We're talking about the people next who know everybody who's somebody. Like they can call up the health minister.
Right.
Those kind of people. So they have the money, and they have the ability to go anywhere and do anything. So, I think there's a lot of excessiveness that may be happening there. But ultimately, the reality of their life is also the same, that they are lonely, they are sick, they are disabled. They need assistance all the time, and they need to be watched out for. The only good thing is maybe sometimes they have too many people looking after them.
Right.
Yeah. So that is one of the scenarios that there could be. But in their heart, those people, like I'll give you an example. So there was this one couple who lived in Goa. They were not originally from here, and I can't name them.
Sure.
So they were very well off. So they had 6 people assisting them in their home, and they had 2 of my staff who would go and care for them. So effectively, 8 human beings looking after 2 human beings, one of whom did not need care at all, just the normal, the cook and the gardener and the driver would have been sufficient. But they also had a manager, and they also had, they had a whole lot of people.
Right.
Now the woman was unwell for the longest time, and then she needed assistance. So her medical needs were being taken care of by my staff.
Okay.
But having said that, other than having a conversation between the 2 of them, they didn't have a third person to talk to, because for whatever it is worth, Sonia, everybody doesn't come with that level of education or this conversation. And these people had traveled the world over, they had a different worldview. And what conversation will you have with a healthcare
Staff,
provider or a cook those are very,
beyond the basic courtesines, what do you do?
And the weather, what else can you talk about? And the price of onions.
Yeah.
There's nothing otherwise, which is engaging, which is fun.
Yeah.
And even if, I think what happens is when you have your grandchildren, then you're narrating so many instances.
Yeah.
You can't even narrate those things to these people.
Yeah.
So what would happen is that the woman would just, she was very fond of watching movies. So in fact, she would watch the same movie over and over again. So even my staff sometimes would say that we are bored. I said, no, you're not going there for your personal entertainment, So, human as they are, they also come back saying these things. So nobody's interested in spending time with them. I think what she would have appreciated is, somebody sitting and enjoying the same movies that she enjoys still.
Yeah.
She watches them over and over again. She just is thrilled to watch it over and over again.
That's true.
But then having somebody to partake of that joy of hers, she doesn't have anybody. So they are rich and they have everything at their disposal, and yet they are lonely. And then there is this whole middle class people who are still trying not to talk about their illnesses because they are afraid it might, topple the finances of the family. They don't want to be a burden on their children. And, they themselves are trying to, subdue their own problems so that the children don't get burdened. And that they are just, I think they're just, most of them are pretending to be fine.
But do they realize that they're not fine? Or they are in actual denial as much?
I think they're pretty much in denial, and they think it's a non-issue. So they think, this is a normal part of being old. This is a normal part of aging, and it's fine. It's fine. So sometimes they don't even mention certain discomfort. Like, for example, there is somebody who's having a little uneasiness, and they're not even mentioning it, and they're going on doing things.
Yeah.
As usual, they want to pretend, they're just limping around. Oh, no, just a little discomfort. I just have a pull in my back, that kind of stuff. And then you realize that, this person was having uneasiness, and now they had suffered a heart attack or something of that sort. And then the children are left wondering, what was I believing, and why did I not sense those?
Seriously.
And then moreover, particularly in that part of society, everybody's judging you. And then everybody's like, oh, they did not care enough. Nobody was there to look after them. So that whole crown of thorns is there on the head of the children also.
All the time.
All the time. That kind of stuff.
Do you find that kind of company around you where you're not judged if you're just sharing?
Few. Very few people.
Even in the same age group, right?
Yes.
Yeah, same here.
So first of all, no, Sonia, there's a whole myth about looking after an elderly person. I don't know if you've just driven down in Goa. You just take it around 11:30 in the morning. Just go driving around any village in Goa. And you'll notice that in these old houses, you'll see an elderly person sitting outside.
On a chair,
just
sitting.
Gaping
Yes.
in the emptiness of his life.
Absolutely.
Now, after COVID, before COVID, people would still hang out. They would say hi, hello. The person would walk out, go to the church, do something.
Right.
Yeah. Because of COVID, everybody got confined to their homes. Now, people who would come visiting, we know that we have an elderly uncle and aunt living, so we will just go and make a visit. Now, that stopped because COVID. They are elderly people, more susceptible, So nobody visited. So A, people stopped going out. B, people stopped visiting them. What happened? That loneliness just got magnified. Now, because I keep observing, I noticed that I said, okay, we need to do something about this. Now, the minute the lockdown was declared open, all the elderly people who are well off,
Yeah.
the upper middle class and the big shots, they started ganging up together and going on vacations and picnics and parties, and they were having a ball of a time. Sonia,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how liberated they were. But the people who belonged to the lower strata economically were still doing the same thing. They were lonely and there was nobody bothered to look at them. And that was affecting me. So I was also in a part of some program where I needed to do a project. And as a part of that, I started doing these on the 1st of May 22. I started this thing called Va Zindagi, which was like a celebration of life.
Okay.
So we went to the panchayats and we just said, we'll bring all the elderly people. No class barrier. Anybody who's willing to come on a Sunday. And we have one day of fun.
Okay.
So I love this. This is the best part of my life. So we go and then we start. So they're all like coming like this, the same grouchy faces and very sad. And they're just like, oh, one more lecture. So somebody has motivated them to come. Something is happening for elderly people. So invariably they think that it's a health camp. Some checkup is going to happen. Some dawai, somebody's going to tell us how sick we are or when are we going to die or something of that sort.
Oh.
Some nonsensical thing. So when they came in, I just said, okay, hi, my name is Rohini and today we're going to have fun. That's it. So and then we started the games and all that stuff. So in every single location, I'm telling you, when we started off, I was like this, full of energy, and they would be like, as the day proceeded, I was like
Going down.
They would come at 3:30, like they've had a lunch break, and then they're all they're like children
Mingled up.
and then after lunch, they are like, I'm like, then I have these lesser strenuous kind of games, right? Because everybody's just eaten and all that. So we're having some more games. Sometimes we're having housey and all of that stuff. Now, foolish, I'm making sure that they all have chai and also start cooling down and winding up so that we can leave. And so 4:30, I want them to go home and they're like, Azun game now? Like, there are no more games. And I'm like, yes, there are games. Wait. And now let me come up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I had to literally come up with ideas of what games we could play now.
Yeah.
Because then, because we have played like lots and lots and lots
From
of
the
games.
morning you're just
From
playing.
morning, from about 10:30
Yeah.
till 3:30, we played games like nobody's business, And we've done all kinds of crazy things. And now they want to play more. So, you literally need to shoo them away. Okay, now we have played. We'll have one more. Now you go home. People who have zero clue about what's going on for the elderly want to create projects for the elderly.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like for example, one gentleman said, मेरा एक सपना है, मैं चाहता हूँ ना कि मैं एक old age home बनाऊँ और एक क्या orphanage बनाऊँ.
Okay.
So elderly people need children, they want to play with children, and children need the care of the elderly, like grandparents. They need their love, which is a fact. Maybe a fact.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then I want them to be together so that they look after each other and they grow together and be fantastic. What a fantastic idea. It's just fantasy, trust me. These people, these elderly people that we're talking about, they have reached their 90s. They've raised these children who are now in their 70s.
Yeah.
They've raised their children who are now in their 40s. They're raising another set of children who are in their 20s. And now you want them to raise another bunch of children. Why on earth would anybody want to do that? Do you think, just imagine this. Would you want to do that? You would never want to do that. Hey, I'm done raising children, for God's sake. You manage your own. I'm not going to do that.
Seriously, yeah.
And however destitute a person might be, why should we take them for granted that the only thing that they really are here, the purpose of their life is to raise other people's children? Come on, give me a break, yeah.
Yeah.
I think their lives should be just celebrated, and we should not be, the way they people educate them is also in a very condescending way. Like, you don't know what I know. Like, beta, you're such a 28-year-old kid advising an 80-year-old person about how life should be led. You haven't even seen 1/4 of what he's already seen.
Exactly.
So, by what
just because they are not speaking back to you, and they're just gently smiling and
they let it pass.
They let it
Sonia,
pass.
Their wisdom is such that they let it pass.
Absolutely.
And when I see them, I'm so amused. I want to go and hug them and say, I just admire you for your wisdom and for the patience that you have. You tolerate all the nonsense that we do around you,
So these misconceptions are, one is this as a society level, right? And then what are these misconceptions at home? between the two generations?
So one of the things is that, like, because I am responsible for my mom's care, I mean, how irresponsible in a very weird way.
Yeah.
She lives with me. Therefore, she's my responsibility, right?
Huh.
So whoever the person is where the parent is living takes it too seriously. Too seriously. It is necessary also in a lot of situations, and we could talk about that endlessly. But one of the things is, so when the parent is getting up, slowly, don't get up, okay? Don't go there. Don't do this. There's so much of don't do, because I am petrified that if something happens to her, I will be blamed.
Oh, the blame
Yes,
part.
yes.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example, okay? And I don't know, I hope the people who hear this will pardon me for this. So my mom was not well, and she was in a very strict diet. She just recovered from a terrible urine infection. She was in a super strict diet. This is last Christmas. And then she was visiting my brother's family. I wasn't there. So when she was going, I told her, now you just eat whatever you want to eat. We will deal with whatever has to happen later.
Yeah.
Because I believe that, life is supposed to be enjoyed.
Absolutely.
So she was all geared up for Christmas, and she went there, and she was so pepped up about it. But they knew, right? From November till Christmas time, I was still dealing with this. And she had a terrible, terrible bout of infection. It was just almost life-threatening. And then after that, when she came back, then this entire diet thing was happening. Like, so many things were happening about her diet. So when she went there, they had certain, delicacies which were being made and all, which they did not allow her to eat. She held her grounds against them, When she came back, she told me, they made puran puri and I didn't get it. So I was like, okay. And then
They're
she was
so
like,
cute.
yeah, she complained about them endlessly, And what was also happening around that time is my mom started having these bouts of forgetfulness. So I literally called up my brother and I said, see, I want to ask you something, but I don't want you to misunderstand this, because mama is also forgetful. I want to know, did something like this happen? He said, yeah, we were so scared to give her anything else, so we stuck to her diet.
Yeah.
I said, during the festive time also you stuck to the diet? He's like, yeah. I said, how stupid of you, couldn't you have asked me?
Yeah.
And I told you to let her eat everything. They say, you said it, but we were scared for her health because she was staying with us.
Yeah.
See, while I had told them you can give her anything, but see, it's just like washing my hands off it, no? Anything happens, it's your responsibility. And they were like, she's managing it so meticulously. And now if something happens to her while she's with us, the whole blame of ruining her health will come upon us. So they stuck to the diet, like to the T, better than what I would have done. So they were, in their opinion, taking far better, in my opinion too, they were taking far better care about her well-being than I would have. And I was. They were doing a far better job.
Yeah.
But for my mom, they were being unfair to her, and she's so mad with them that they did not allow me to eat that sweet. So when she came here, then I said, okay, fine, we'll make it.
Yeah.
So I got it organized.
Another Christmas party.
Another Christmas party. We'll redo the Christmas thing again. But you don't, so that's the pressure. That's the pressure on the child, or I'm not just saying child, on the family where the elderly person resides. They are constantly caught up in letting them have their way or do what is absolutely prescribed, so that there is no right or wrong there. While I think they should have allowed her to have a good time because it was Christmas, I also understand that she's had these bout of hospitalization and all of these things, that they felt that it's better to be cautious, and they didn't want her to fall sick at that time.
Absolutely, yeah.
So who's going to judge whom? Okay, so there's another side to it. This is the myth. Okay, so this is one of the myths. A whole lot of elderly people know, one of the things that they want to feel is they want to feel independent. They really want to feel independent. That they shouldn't be somebody who's being chaperoned around. They shouldn't be somebody who has somebody to watch over them. They want to do it on their own. In the beginning, I would offer my hand to hold their hand. I have learned now that that's not what they need. So no longer do I do that. I think I stopped it. Few months after I started Sevarat, when I started taking Sevarat way too seriously, it became the creed of my life. I just needed to figure it out, and I needed to do everything right about it. So I was always there. And for that matter, if you look around, you'll just find elderly people. So whenever I used to find people crossing the road, I would want to walk there and help them. Then I figured the reason why that person is there is because they are enjoying their independence. So if you want to do something, just be
around.
Be around. So that
in case
you
it's
can
needed.
hold them.
Yeah.
But don't ever dare
Yeah.
offer help, because it's just like somebody who's disabled. You don't have to
Yeah.
go and help them. You don't have to feel sorry for them. You need to give them dignity of letting them do what they want to
Yeah.
do. And at the same time, because you're a responsible person, you're just around there to take care.
Yeah.
Because, our whole system is so, I mean, the roads, a car can't drive
exactly.
there. How will a person walk there? You
Yeah.
can trip and fall anywhere.
Exactly.
So then you're just there to make sure that they're not stepping on some stone, or they're not tripping and falling down. That's just it. That's the only thing you need to do.
And
So
at that moment, they don't mind.
Yeah.
Of course, they
now,
know.
for example, my dad would walk with a walking stick. He had a pattern. Okay, so we used to go to church every Sunday, and he would get out of the car, he would hold his walking stick, and he would grasp my hand, and he would walk. The minute we got closer to the church, all charitable Catholics would come. Do you need help? Do you need? And my dad used to just stand and smile. he was this, he had attained sainthood in his lifetime. He's always like that. He's always like that. Always been that kind of a person. So you just smile and say no, thank you. But the thing is, they all hound you. Then suppose there is a person who they can get intimidated by that whole attention, then they would not want to go.
Yeah. So what should one do? What I mean to say is, how do we prepare? Right now, we are like, let's say, the first generation processing this. And you and I are talking about it as being the first generational. You are actively working on it. I'm taking care of it in my own family. And there are millions like me and a few like you. But this is the way it's going to go.
Yes.
Here onwards, right? So what is it that we can do to prepare our elderly to face the challenges that are going to come up for them?
Now, again, you need to define who these elderly are. Like the people in the 90s, they figured it out. They know. The people in the late 80s and 90s who are currently in that age group, I think they pretty much reconcile.
No, so let's say the people who are right now probably in the 50s, or early 60s, and of course they're healthy at this time. They're active, healthy, probably even having a profession.
I doubt that, Sonia. That the problem is that because of our lifestyle and the way we've been leading our lives, I think these are the most unhealthy people. See, this new generation, to that extent, even our generation, we're becoming conscious, particularly after COVID.
Yeah.
We all becoming conscious that health is primary. We all starting to kind of, focus on so much of health, well-being, all of those things. But the generation prior to that, they did not do, they actually never had the opportunity.
Yeah.
They never had the access. It was not a priority.
Things were too tough for them.
Worked.
Yeah.
They have had a very bad deal served for them all this while. Anyways, I think there are quite a few things that they have not had the opportunity or the awareness or, just the feasibility to do. Focus on their health. They have not focused on their health. They haven't focused on their financial well-being. So a lot of people may have saved and built a house and had some insurance and some savings, but they've not quite prepared for medical expenses to the extent that it comes out now.
Yeah.
Now, for example, of course, hospitalization, surgeries are all covered in insurance, but home healthcare is not covered, and they can't afford it. So people then settle for the ordinary.
Yeah.
And why should you? Why should you settle for something which is not even good enough?
Yeah.
Like then you settle for somebody who is an
Local.
alcoholic, for example, who practically is smelling of alcohol, is coming and looking after the elderly person. I know of innumerable instances where that person is literally ill-treating the elderly person.
Really?
And the family is looking the other way because the only reason why they need this person is because they cannot lift him or they cannot change his diaper themselves. So they literally have to, I don't know whether they have to, they choose to look the other way. And this is a very commonplace thing, reality. That the people who are looking after the elderly are people who are being rude, inhuman, torturing them, abusing them physically, emotionally, mentally, verbally. It's a terrible scene, and the reason why it is so is because given the cost, that is the only thing you can afford. So you cannot afford, like for example, when you don't have a maid, your life gets completely disabled.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is. This is even worse. This is even more strenuous on the family, right?
Yeah.
So they're okay to tolerate that bad behavior in order to get away with that situation. So I think if they had financially managed their lives better, they would not have to do that. So that is one of the most important
Which means
things.
savings or some form of
Saving,
liquid.
investments, better insurance, whatever it is. I think they need to look at that as a primary thing. And one other thing is building up community, because now over a period of time what has happened is we used to live in joint families.
Yeah.
We used to meet cousins, and all of them all over all the time. We used to have big weddings and big functions and stuff like that. All of that has stopped now, right? So invariably you're isolated. And the other thing is, a lot of times this happens when people are living and working in a certain place, and post retirement they have this great fantasy of going and settling. Like in Goa, this is the reality. Everybody from all over the world wants to come and retire in Goa,
Yeah.
but they don't understand that you don't have a community here. Then you are an isolated couple or an isolated individual.
Which you could have done it in your younger years.
Yeah, but now is not the time when you're going to go and bond and
New place.
new people, and
Yeah.
then after a point of time it lands. And then perhaps it's too late because they've sold off everything in their places, and then they've come and invested here, and now they just have no way to deal with it. All of those issues. So what I'm trying to say is that, knowing clearly where you are going to live the retired life, and having a community of people and like-minded people. Like, I'm not just saying people who are fond of gardening, for example. Not just that, but people who are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally at your wavelength. Where you
Just to have a conversation.
And you're not having conflicts. Imagine at that time you're having political differences with each other, and then you're dealing with that, and then because then at that age even a small conversation becomes a very big issue. It just gets magnified, because we can just brush it off now. Like, it's his opinion, you to yours, we agree to disagree. But at that age it becomes very difficult. Then some of them even feel betrayed that the other person doesn't believe the way they believe things. And it leads to a whole lot of emotional trauma for them. So I think it is very, very important that now when you know that you're going to retire, you go and retire in a happy place. And that happy place is not just because there's sun and beach and all that stuff. It's also because you have happy bunch of people that you can relate with and you can have fun with. That is primary, I think.
What is it that is needed for elderlies to be independent? Like you say, they don't want to be held. They don't want to be, they want to feel like they're as they were young. So what in our cities could be the basic thing?
I think the most important thing is to just be sensitive to it. Like, like when Goa conducted the Purple Fest, this is for the persons with disabilities, right?
Yeah.
For the first time, they put up this whole ramp at Miramar Beach.
Okay.
And it's very overwhelming, actually. I met up with this person who was in the wheelchair. He traveled all the way from Delhi. And, he messaged me that evening. For the first time in my life, I dipped my toes in the seawater. And I was so moved. Why can't this be a reality? Elderly people can't walk on the beach. I understand you can't set up railings there. But, walking on the promenade is also a great thing to do. That promenade has pavers which are wobbly. I mean, just be sensitive. You've created this thing for somebody who's supposed to... Actually, what we need to look at is that we don't need pavers there. We need soft soil for them to walk on. Flat, soft soil for them to walk on, which doesn't hurt their feet. But they can maybe we can have some, grab bars around along the way where they can just hold and walk and enjoy the sea and the view and the walking. I mean, it would be so beautiful. But that, it's like a whole... it's unthinkable, I think, as far as...
Looks too big a project for anybody to...
Generally, anybody who's into designing spaces, right?
Yeah.
Now, finally, we have some things which are like they have a ramp for a wheelchair.
For
some
the
places have had those. Very good. Fantastic. Some people have got washrooms for the disabled. But, the joke of the matter is, then they'll have one step at that place to get there. Somewhere or the other, there is one step, and that is like a 2-inch thing. I don't get it. Why would you want to raise some floor by 2 inches? It's not even a stair.
It's a point beaten to have that ramp altogether.
Okay. I'm sorry I'm mentioning this, but you should go to the GMC. The main building of the GMC has ramps from both the sides. And then it has got 3 steps, which is ridiculous, which is like a joke. in the name of designing, and nobody's pointed this out. I don't know. I mean, it just disgusts me every time I go there. Of course,
It's
by God's
just
grace,
not
there is some other access also to that place, which is great, but that's no excuse, that's no justification.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what's
It's
the
like a
point of having?
joke.
Yeah, it is.
I must tell you another funny thing,
Huh.
So we were just moving houses, and I was talking to all kinds of brokers, and my mandate was that I need an elevator from the ground floor.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I said my mom is pretty able, but I keep prepared for the situation when she would be in a wheelchair.
Sure.
Or whatever that. It's a medical emergency.
Yeah.
For example, in an ambulance, invariably there's just a driver and there is one paramedic.
Yeah.
They're never willing to take the person on the
stairs.
stretcher,
Yeah.
or they're not willing to lift or assist. And
Yeah.
suppose there's one person who's alone, how do you take that person? And that person could be any build, If
Yeah.
that person is a heavier built person, and somebody who cannot lift that person, and lifting a person is also a skill, It's not just about
It's not
physical
just about the strength. Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people, I mean, almost all of us lack the basic ability to lift a person and put them on a stretcher.
True.
Or put them into a wheelchair. We don't have that ability. So the ambulance per se would perhaps not have some assistance available, but that's another topic. So now I wanted the elevator from the ground floor up. I told him my mother can't climb steps. So he said, no, you need to come and have a look at it. This is a lovely place, all of those things. He sent me photographs. I liked the place. So I managed to get there. And now when I went there, I realized that the somehow their parking has the elevator from the parking, which is like right from the ground floor, which is great. So he said, you'll be parking your car here and you'll be taking the elevator here. I said, great. I'm trying to enter the elevator, and I'm entering that space. I realized that it's very narrow. So I just tried to do this and enter there. And there wasn't enough space. So I kept thinking about this. And then I'm still dealing with this, Sonia. And the next thing he said sounded like magic to me. You know what he says? Ma'am, here there is no problem. Only upstairs there is a problem. I said, what is the problem upstairs? He says, 5 steps, no? She has to come down. I said, but I told you all along that I can't have steps. I said, I told you my mother can't climb steps. He's saying, no, she doesn't have to climb. She just has to come down. I'm like,
She can roll.
I'm like, okay, what is the logic? The logic is that the elevator stops between 2 floors. So you either go 1 flight of steps up or you go 1 flight of steps down. The person who's designed it has, in all of his intelligence, designed it exactly like that. Be this. And this is not just one building.
I've not
there are
even-
many of these,
Yeah?
many such buildings. I've been to at least 2 of them already.
This
I
is
don't
crazy.
understand. This is ridiculous. I mean,
I've not heard this.
how short-sighted can you be? And it just defeats the purpose of having an elevator. Or maybe some space management, some logic. which
Whatever
I
it
fail
is,
to
but it has
understand.
to be figured out, because like for a situation where you're not lift walking just because you're
No, you
lazy.
don't have to walk up, you have to walk down. That's the logic.
Sorry, yeah, of course, different.
Yeah, it's doable. So if you can't climb up, that's a problem, but you can climb down, that's possible. So ridiculous stuff like this is happening. It has happened in the past.
Yeah.
Maybe still happening in a very big way. Sometimes I feel a little contrite that I have to say that to them, but I also know that it gives them so much happiness. As a business, you're constantly judging yourself that whether you're doing this right. Because this
From
is
all
such a-
perspectives.
Yeah. Then it's also a matter of ethics, when I'm just saying something, but I'm just saying it. So then you have to be ethically, saying the right thing to them.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just need to say it the way it is, and then many people don't like it. But I think that's the choice I've made to be.
Yeah, it's different from taking care of your own parents and grandparents versus in general public, being professional.
And people, when they're paying you money for it, then you are bound to serve
you're
them
bound.
with a whole lot of ethical, standards.
And somewhere they expect it also. Like
I don't think they expect too much out of us. They're used to such rundown services, that they actually don't expect much from me. I tell you this honestly, Sonia. This is another thing which is very strange, They never complain. And I wonder, why don't you complain? It's a non-issue for them and it's okay for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's not okay. So then I need to tell them that, see, you're paying me money. Therefore, you have every right to ask me and demand very good quality services from me.
Yeah.
Don't settle in for something which is not good enough.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair on you. So what I'm saying is, they don't even understand that they should have these levels of expectation from a service provider. And they keep thanking me profusely, like as if I'm doing them a favor, and I tell them, please don't thank me, because this is my job. You're paying me money for me to do this to you. You shouldn't even be grateful to me.
Yeah.
But they are always like that. They are in awe of what I do, my stuff, and all of those things, which is a great. It's a very I mean, it's a very gratifying feeling. But
Yeah.
all said and done, what I'm trying to tell you is that they are so used to not getting good quality stuff that they're just okay with anything, and it's shocking what all they can tolerate.
Yeah.
You know, I know of people who have had caretakers who have not given them food and eaten up all the food, um, left them hungry. An elderly sick person who was left under your care, you've left them hungry, given them stale food, eaten good food, and the family is saying, you eat whatever you want to eat, make sure my parent is getting fed too. And you are having a ball of a time and you're not treating that person well. That kind of ill treatment has
So
happened.
it's real, huh?
It's
All these
real. It
stories.
happens all the time, all the time. It's
It's
very, very real, and it's shockingly frequent.
considering that seniors probably for the first time at that scale have been by themselves. That's okay, it's a choice. They made that choice, the families made a choice. So there is no pity party on that. But considering that that's happening and nobody knows, nobody is prepared for it, there are no structures available in-house in the society, what does it do to the emotions, to the mind, to the confidence, to the relationships of and around the elderlies?
Yeah, I think majorly there is lack of confidence. So the day you retire, see, the thing is, till the day you retire, you're the first, invariably, you're one of the most important people in the household, right? And the day you retire, then you are not even allowed to have bath at the same time that you used to, because now, where do you have to go? You can have bath later. Then you just take next place, second place, last place. That is a downward journey, right? So look at that. Like yesterday, I was given preference to shower and go to work because I was going to work.
Yeah.
And today, I don't have to do that just because I'm going to be at home and I'm insignificant now. And from there, you can shower later to just being like an object in the house, like a piece of furniture, just lying there. And sometimes, we just acknowledge them. And this happens in my house. It happens with me. I do this to my mom many times. Like, I'm just passing by and, hey, mom, hey, mom. Yeah, of course, I'm acknowledging her, but it's not like I am participating in her life. And my mom just looks up from whatever she's doing and, hey, and then she's back to whatever she's doing. I'm off. Sometimes I don't even wait for her to say that, hey, and I'm out of the door. This is our life. So obviously they are feeling ignored, they are feeling insignificant, their confidence is down, and then they don't know what to do with their life. See, earlier, you continued to be occupied because of the activities that one engaged in till very ripe old age.
Yeah.
Now 16, that's it. Now you're retired, finish. End of show. But you are going to die because of life expectancy. You're going to die 30, 35 years later, dude. So it's like half a lifetime more of just not knowing what to do. You try to be in a place where you don't know what to do. I mean, it's good to have a vacation. It's good to have a
That's very
sabbatical for a
different.
year and
That's very different.
contribute and all that stuff, And
Yeah.
everybody imagines that they're going to just have a great time once they retire,
Yeah.
with no clue of how that great time is going to manifest itself.
Yeah.
And I don't think too many people are having that great time. Of course, a lot of people are wise enough to have prepared themselves emotionally, mentally, financially in a very big way. Financial freedom is one of the most determining things when it comes to how the quality of the life they spend post retirement. So I think they are essentially lost and about to be forgotten, even while they are alive. So that is the condition of the elderly almost everywhere. And this is across societies, across cultures, across, whatever family structures.
Isn't it also true that I see the younger people are also far more caring, and there's like maybe post COVID, but like in the recent times I also see like people abroad, they're living abroad, but they would call 3 times a day, in spite of everybody's busy, nobody's free today, but they'll call 3 times a day, they'll make sure that nurses are put or maids are put, they're mindful that they have a senior. Do you see that around or no?
Well, people do those things. Of course, they call up. Every time people are living away from their homes, they are actually more compelled to call up and check on their parents. Um, Mostly out of guilt, because you feel guilty that you are not there to look after them, so you just kind of doing that. And as a matter of compensation, then you try to get them the best possible solution, which is hiring a maid or a caretaker, or making sure that you call up somebody and make sure, like I would call up my friends and make sure they would check on my parents, and doing all of that. But that is also in compensation for not being there yourself, right? Yeah, there's a different value now after COVID. Maybe people have realized that family, health, all of these things are, I mean, the values have returned, and I think they bounced back to the good old days again. So yeah, there was that phase of time when everybody would call up and check, more out of paranoia than out of love, I think.
Sure.
But they did
At least
a few things.
At least the check.
Yes.
From, let's say,
Yeah.
few years back, when there were more stories of
Yeah.
very lesser communication.
Yes.
And have you also seen families where, like you were saying earlier, there are 4 generations living together? So if not 4, do you also have people like 2 generations, 3 generations living together in Goa?
Actively in a certain home? Yes, I've seen that. It's
yes. in Goa.
It is possible. It is there. It's quite prevalent also. It's not like it is not there. It is there.
So there are.
Yes.
Right. And then there been situation you would have come to know of it only when there would have been probably a care required,
Yes, they would need somebody.
So what's happening? So that means it's a equipped household with different age groups around there.
Yes.
But they need your services or an elderly care for, let's say, a prolonged
because then
illness.
the older person is too old, and the next generation is incapable of taking care of them because they themselves are not too well. Most of the times they are like, I've just had a hip replacement surgery, or I've just been through a heart attack and I have a stent and I can't handle this thing. I'm too stressed. Or sometimes they are like, I need to take care of my grandchildren. I want to be spending time with them. I want to be having a good time. I don't want to be stuck with this person. That is also true. That is also true.
Or it could be just somebody who's busy. That's okay, right? So then this care is required for like a prolonged treatment or something like that. And then the other set of people who require services like that, who are completely on their own.
Yeah.
And there is some health issue where they can't.
Only for that duration they might need.
So those are all smaller ones.
Yes.
Right? And then the third category would be emergencies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Which they end up calling, somebody else calls for them, but requires an emergency, ambulance or something like that.
Very rarely.
That's rare?
That is rare.
Good to know.
That is rare.
How that's rare? Emergencies are...
Because then, one of the things is by the time they've reached that age, they already have this preferred doctor who's not exactly the family doctor that we used to have, but because of their past history of illnesses, they already are acquainted with a certain doctor. So invariably, if something happens to them, like for example, if there's somebody who's going through some neurological problem, so they may be talking to the neurologist on an ongoing basis, and now it may be a heart problem, but they will invariably call that doctor, and that doctor will recommend whatever the next course of action is. Or they are already associated with that hospital, so the first thing they'll do is just put them in an ambulance or something and get them to that hospital. So that's not when they can think of us. They generally think of an emergency like a 108, or they think of that particular hospital or that doctor.
Right.
Because we are pretty much later, right? We are on the outskirts of that thing.
So that's good.
But the people who are already using our services, like we have something called a membership, right? So we have an annual membership. So a whole lot of our customers don't need active care, but they have us as their backup because their children don't live here. In case of any situation, I'm not just saying a medical emergency, but if they just feel like, oh, now maybe, my mom wants to visit her relatives and my dad is going to be alone, so would you kindly send somebody to look after him? That kind of a situation also. So these people are tied up with us. They are our members, right? And they are our customers in that sense. So then they call up saying if there was an emergency, then they would call up. They would call up.
That's very nice.
Yes.
And that's such a backbone.
Yeah.
And to ensure that, what's the kind of manpower that you have to put together?
Oh, don't ask.
I asked.
So we make sure that we have people on bench. So I have to keep a bench strength all the time. All the time. Because I don't know when a hale and hearty person, even if it was just a common cold, they need to be nebulized, they need to be done something. They need care, and then it is necessary.
And then how do you manage, how do you train? So your staff, are they the medically trained people?
Yes.
You always pick those.
Always. So even my caretakers have done a paramedical course. I don't take the maids and gardeners and convert them into caretakers, no.
But like this whole training and taking care of a segment that's not you yourself. So you have no idea of what that person is going through.
Yeah.
How did you figure that all out enough and in a manner that you could give it to your staff, train them?
I don't know if I figured it enough, but I figured it fairly well, because I see my whole thing comes from my own experience. So I don't talk anything which is something that I haven't experienced myself. So I only know what I have seen, what I have experienced, and that's the only thing I can pass on, right? So everything that I give them is first hand. I will tell them, like, for example, in a household, particularly that generation, they're very particular about where things need to be kept.
Yeah.
So if it's a glass, it needs to be kept in a certain place.
Yeah.
So I tell them, like, we have had this instance, where this boy, very diligent, beautiful soul, one of the best boys I've had, okay? Such an amazing boy. And he narrated this instance to me, and he had tears when he was telling me this, but he also was sharing it from a very, very different standpoint. He wasn't complaining. And then he was like, you had trained me in this, but I didn't realize it until that instance happened. So this woman, he was looking after the patient, the man, and his wife. She called him, and he was in the middle of something he was doing. So she called him over and over again. So he had to just let it go and then run there, thinking that it was something very important. And then she said, ये बॉटल ना यहाँ पे नहीं वहाँ पे रखी जाती है. So it was 4 inches away. So he said, मैम वो मुश्किल से ना 4 inches away था. तो she called me, and then I picked up the bottle and I kept it there. And then she said, now you may go.
This is super, super cute. So loneliness is one thing that I can clearly see that no matter what, age gets you to that.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the darker part of it.
Yes. And they aren't taking it so seriously anyways. They're just very cool about it. They're just so cool about it.
And laughing at us.
So see, what happened was my mom was having a pain in her foot, and she asked me, and I give her an ice pack every time. That day she asked me for a hot water bag. I gave it to her, and she's got numb feet. Okay, she's got diabetic neuropathy, so her feet don't have sensation. She kept her foot on it so hard that, and her skin is so sensitive, developed a blister which turned into a wound, which became so frightfully bad. For months together now, she's suffering. And, it came to a point where we thought we would have to amputate her leg. It was that bad. It was just terrible,
It just didn't stop anywhere in between?
I mean, it just went right till there, and now it's come back, and it's by God's grace, it's just about healed, almost healed completely. But it's been an ordeal, and it's been a lot of suffering and a lot of resilience on her part. And every time she did that, I mean, when it happened and when it was really bad, I felt so miserably guilty about it. I mean, she asked for it, but in my wisdom, I should have known not to give it to her. But I thought, what harm will it do,
Yeah.
And then she suffered because of it, and I felt so miserably guilty. And she was like, it's okay, it happens in life. Who knew? She's so cool about it, But I couldn't. Particularly when we took her to the hospital and it was on the verge of being amputated, I was just it was devastating for me. I just couldn't see her in the eye, and just, I can't tell you how many, I mean, I think I would have shaken heaven over upside down praying to make sure that she gets all right. I've done all kinds of things that I could think of, and God has been kind, thank God, that it's healed. And she kept at it, she kept at it. She went through all of that. She's a very strong, resilient woman. She's blessed. She put up with that. It was very difficult.
What role does willpower have in the entire healing process?
100%. That's the only thing. Everything else is just placebo. Everything else is just placebo, according to me. I mean, yeah, there are procedures there, but then the way they come out of those procedures also talks so much. So much.
And how do you define or understand willpower?
I'll go back to the world record event, So, Sonia, I mean, this is what it is, if I can actually summarize to you. So we declared, okay, this was in the month of May. I discovered that this bug bit me, and I knew that I wanted to create a world record with them. Okay, so I went ahead and I, in my foolishness, said, okay, what is the song? We'll create a medley of Goan music, and da 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 da. Did that, got a choreographer, and I got him to perform it. I took videos and I sent it on WhatsApp, and people were just going bonkers. I would get calls, Rohini, that so and so, I don't even know that so and so. So and so, you met us that day, she's not dancing properly. I'm telling her this is the right step. She's not listening to me. And I had to tell him it's not a dance competition. it's a record. See, irrespective of however you're dancing, so long as you're dancing, it works. Yeah. So don't stress so much, because you might just break a leg for all you care.
And not the record, but the leg.
But the leg, yeah. That was a good one. So, I just get all kinds of calls, and it was so much, it could just, the spirit, the tempo was just going up like this. I could see that they were driven. They were just so driven. I mean, I get goosebumps when I think of it. Oof, you should see them, the way they came, They came when they were entering the stadium. I know you can visualize it.
Yeah.
I have a video. You should watch it. They were just crazy people. And I must have hugged 1,000 times that day. Because they just wanted to come and hug me and say, thank you for giving us this, I felt so gratified. My mom, I don't think my mom has ever felt so proud of me. The way they wanted to go and see, oh, she made you. So that kind of thing, They went on meeting her and they were like, you're her mom. And my mom was so overwhelmed. I just know that if I ever want to ask my mother, when you really felt proud that you made me, and that was one day. Because there were so many people coming and just acknowledging the fact that she's made me and she's my mom. And my mom was just basking. And then, so there was a journey between that. Okay, so we went around, and then from this medley of Goan songs, I was guided by some people around that there's something called the India Book of World Records, which is India Book of World Records. Yeah. So Indian records, but which are world records. Okay, so I got in touch with them, and I used all kinds of influence to force them to accept our invitation and come over, and they agreed to come.
Nice.
So I just told him, see, this is the only one chance for these elderly people. You need to come, whatever it is. And he had an event the previous day, but then he still managed to come here. And he just declared it a world record. So, and then they got there. So the whole day we practiced it. And in the evening we performed the final act. And then it was declared a world record. So as soon as it was declared a world record, so there was this whole glorious moment of everything fancy. And these people, they were just so overwhelmed with happiness. I can't even tell you how amazing it was. And I was standing on stage and I was just mesmerized by what was happening there, And it wasn't so much about the world record, but it was just about hundreds of people just being absolutely happy and accomplished. And it was the fantasticest moment of my life, It is just the most moving experience. And I know that if there is something, then they just need this hope. They just need something to wake up to, something to look forward to, something to do, something to contribute, something to feel great about. I think that's what we all are living for, actually. And so much more for them, because now they're not just surviving for the sustenance. They're not just having a livelihood or anything of that sort. They really need purpose in their lives.
So just the last question, but it's come to the best question. I really wanted to ask you, how, in the business of service and care, how important is spirituality, connection, human connection, relatedness, empathy? If one has less of it, or least of it, or none of it, can they still be as good service providers and caretakers versus the other who comes from a space of support and relationship and being completely okay about caring for others?
So, Sonia, I will just not be the right person to give you an objective opinion about this, because
No,
I
your
think I
opinion.
have a predominant bias on the side of people who come with an inherent inclination to care.
I have the same. So yeah.
So it is a bias I have, and I have lived by it. Okay. I'll tell you why. Now, for example, when I go to hire people, I make sure that I hire every last person myself. So even if there are preliminary checks which are happening, the ultimate go no go happens by me. Not because I'm smarter, but just that I am sensitive to their emotional ability, or maybe, and I may be wrong for all you care,
Sure.
but I'm happy to do it this way. I mean, I
Right.
just want to do it this way.
Right.
I can say with certain amount of confidence that this has worked for me so far. I may be absolutely wrong
So you
about it.
do check for it.
That is the only thing I check for. So I don't care. I don't ask them, do you know how to move a patient? Do you know how to change that? No. All those things don't matter to me.
Can
That
be
is supposed to happen at the training level. If it's not happening, it's happening in my classroom. I'm not worried. I will make sure that you will know that. But are you inherently a caring person? What is your inclination towards a person who's disabled? How do you view a person who needs your care? And are you somebody who's ethical about it? Are you spiritually driven to care? Those are the only things that I look out for. The number of candidates that I evaluate and the number of people I end up hiring, okay, forget hiring, and the number of people I end up retaining beyond the training is minuscule. That's my hugest cost in my balance sheet. But I just can't compromise.
Wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah, I haven't maybe found the method, the intelligence, or the heart to do it any other way. I don't have the heart to do it any other way. So what I do is I just see them, and I am just intuitively, I try to connect with them. I try to connect with them and talk to them about very random things, And, the way they come about saying certain things to me, that just tells me if they are in it or they're not in it. And those things are very, you might think those are very ridiculous things, but when I ask them certain questions, I just get to see where they come from, And I just take a call. It's just aiming in the dark.
Yeah.
It may be a hit or a miss. I come to know by the end of my training here, that is when I'm judging them. I'm actually watching them like with a hawk's eye. I'm noticing everything that they do, their behavior, their interpersonal skills, how they are when I'm not around. Not like I'm watching them on a camera, but I'm just observing their behavior and all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, we conclude whether this person is capable or not capable. And we manage. We just manage somehow. Unless and until I'm absolutely certain, I will not send them to my client. That's just how it is. But we also, during this training, we also inculcate in them those values. Then that is about, telling them how to do it right.
Yeah.
And when you tell them, see, given a choice, why wouldn't you want to do it the right way?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you just tell them that. Then they
When
do
you
it
have
the right
to do
way.
it, might as well do
Do
it
it
the best.
right way.
Yeah.
And then one of the things in my entire HR system, we don't have anything called penalties.
Okay.
We don't have anything called penalties, which is why I have a lesser occurrence of errors. Because we only encourage them for good things that they do. We only appreciate them for good things. They only get an incentive.
But what
There's
about the
no
errors?
penalty.
What about the errors they may cause?
So whenever they cause an error, then first of all, we go back to why they caused that error.
Okay.
So one thing is negligence. The other thing is lack of training. Lack of training is on me. It's not on them. Negligence is not tolerated. So you either are sorry about it and you correct yourself. Otherwise, you leave instantaneously. No excuses. If I sense as much as that person doesn't have remorse for what's happened, then that person is not fit. There's no second chances there. Yeah, that's very strict. That's very clear. There are no second chances.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's about the life at the other end?
Yes.
Or even otherwise.
It is just a matter of principle, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at where I stand, okay? Where I stand. I am taking money and I'm assuring somebody who's not even there. That person is sitting in a place away from his house, he or she is counting that I'm taking care of his parents.
Yeah.
And then because of somebody's lack of seriousness, negligence, that thing is I mean, how do I face that
Yeah.
person? It's just,
doesn't
that's
work.
not what I'm made for. I'm not cut out for that stuff. So I'm just clear, Baba, I am not going to stake my integrity because of your humanness, humanness as it may be. I can pardon you a lot of things, but I can't pardon. See,
Negligence on
mistakes
this part.
happen. It's
Yeah.
not like, I'm not saying mistakes don't happen.
Yeah.
But if you're not even regretful, if you don't even hold remorse for it, then that means you're very clearly going to do it over and over again.
Yeah.
Because that you think is very acceptable. That's not acceptable. That's not going to be there. And you will not stand with me another day. And I'm not going to take that chance another day.
Yeah.
If I have the slightest doubt that this person may not, I don't send them. Like if they say, if you're wondering yes or no, that means it's a no already. If it's a yes, it has to be a vehement yes. I can send this person. So if I'm sending somebody to somebody's house, I trust that person with all of my soul and I'm doing it with all of my integrity. So my neck is in line. They can hold me accountable for it. I'm absolutely clear about that. There are no two ways about it.
That's brilliant.
And I can say that with utmost confidence. In fact, there has been very recently, there's somebody who was not, may have been negligent, okay, and did not have enough remorse. And I was all set to terminate that person, but the family requested me, no, there is a situation, let's just tide over this. We got over that situation, and the next day, I just gave him his notice. I said, I'm done. Now he's coming around, apologizing, but then no.
It's over.
It's over. It's over. For me, it's over. It was over back then. And I told those people that I am keeping this person only because of your recommendation, because you are in a situation you think
This person should
this
be
is
there.
the only person you want to
Yeah.
be there, because that person was very comfortable. We knew it was last stage. We just wanted to get over that situation. So we, in consultation, that was because they were they signed in on it. It
They
was
were
at their behest that I was doing it. So it's not on my soul. And the minute that instance got over, that's it. Over.
Amazing. Lovely. Thank you very much.
We should end this conversation.
Yeah.
We talked
No,
for so
I mean,
long.
it just is that whole main thought is, I hope, and through the podcast, I just hope it can reach to as many people. Few takeaways that I'm taking in is this whole independence factor. I knew it, I felt it, but it's gotten super sunk in now, is this whole thing about the parents being, they're happy being independent.
Yes.
We should not have any other thoughts around it.
Yes.
Right? All that we have to do is help them be independent,
Yes.
but be a fly on the wall.
Yes. Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah.
You said it right.
I'm a good student always. I just don't know why my teachers never believed it. Hiring is of course a very important part, but जब आपके customers की life and death is in your hand, well almost, then hiring से ज़्यादा और बड़ा क्या ही हो सकता है. But sometimes it's assumed and it's understood, but there is always taken as a pinch of salt. But Rohini doesn't do that. सुना आपने कितनी शिद्दत के साथ उन्होंने हायरिंग के बारे में बोला, और उनका की फोकस है कि जब वो किसी को मिलती हैं तो उनको सेंस आता है कि वेदर शी कैन ट्रस्ट दैट पर्सन और नॉट, एंड देन शी फील्स कि स्किल्स तो सिखाई जा सकती हैं. आई टोटली अग्री विद दैट. एब्सोल्युटली इट इज़ द पर्सन दैट मैटर्स. स्किल्स इज डिफरेंट थिंग. सो नाउ व्हेन आई हियर दिस, हमारे सबके पेरेंट्स उस एज ग्रुप में हैं जो सेवारत के कस्टमर बेस में आते हैं. And when I hear that, I wish मेरे city में सेवारत होता, and all of us feel relaxed in the hands of an organization which focuses on the quality of people it sends for my mother and my father's care. Hats off. So let's move on. Apart from this phenomenal person that you just met, as you know, we have only phenomenal people at the podcast. So Raju Varman is an incredible entrepreneur जिनका focus customer support पे है, only on customer service. Owner है of Sulame Resort in Goa. Yeah, we have a lot of Goans these days. But in spite of being the owner, he himself takes care that his customers sit down and have a really nice time with him. And I have many people coming and telling me that they come to his resort because of him. that much of a customer support. So the conversation is about hospitality. It's about Goa and its changing times. It's about India, the youth, why the youth is not really getting where, let's say, the people who are in 50s and 60s got there. What's missing? What's really amazing in the youth today? Lots of conversation. The other podcast you should not miss is of Himanshu Jain. He is a BJP supporter. Nothing to do with the organization or the credibility or the designation. So वो बात करते हैं कि जो जिसको हम टेरर बोलते हैं कि हमारे देश में बीजेपी का टेरर एक फैलता जा रहा है. He completely disagrees. He says कि कुछ डर अच्छे हैं. So ये कौन से डर की बात है? That is something that we get to know. Secondly, Himanshu talks about the responsibility of a common citizen, यानी कि आपकी और मेरी. पार्टीज तो बदलती रहती हैं. कांग्रेस के अपने कुछ कुछ इश्यूज थे, बीजेपी के अपने इश्यूज हैं, ये तो चलते रहेंगे. बट हु आर वी बीइंग? आर वी आस्किंग द राइट क्वेश्चंस? आर वी आस्किंग द राइट पीपल? आर वी फाइटिंग इट आउट? और जब मैं फाइटिंग इट आउट की बात करती हूँ, आई मस्ट रिमाइंड यू ऑफ अनदर पॉडकास्ट विच इज़ विद द फैबुलस आर्टिस्ट अरिजीत सेन, who otherwise could just be an artist, but no, he doesn't leave it at that. He believes कि वो इस दुनिया में जैसे आए थे, इस देश में जैसे आए थे, he wants to leave this world and this country at least in a good hand, and for that, if it needs to be fought on, he will fight, and he continues his fight. So these are these incredible people on Flirting with the Fish. I hope you love it. Keep flirting.